And today we have Jonny Stuckmayer.
Nailed
What's your
it. Nice
name?
Stuckmayer.
job.
What do you think, Jonny?
Stuckmayer.
Yeah, we heard the little thing here before.
Hmm.
What how do you
Well,
pronounce your name?
I've always gone by Stuckmeyer, but when I was traveling in Germany, I was at a hostel checking in, and they were like, "No, you're saying your name wrong. It's Stuckmeyer." So
Stuckmayer.
I'm assuming they know better than I do, but yeah,
No, I don't think so
Yeah.
at all. Yeah.
You say this was Germany? They're telling you what to
yeah,
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
yes, yeah,
surprise.
Rude. They're like, spell it
yeah,
out for me.
yep.
Yeah.
And my first name is Jonathan, but people don't remember it Jonathan, but they remember it Johnny. You know.
Really?
Hmm.
So I kind of, when I was like 16, I decided to start switching over to Johnny just because I liked it more. But then it's
Hmm.
been good for this industry because, the more memorable you are, the more likely you'll be remembered for the next project. So
Right.
True.
That's really interesting. I wouldn't think of Jonathan as like or as like a forgettable name. Like I know Jonathans and I'm just like, that's a dope name. Like I like that name. And so that's very interesting that people are like, what now?
yeah,
It's one less
yeah,
syllable, so it's easier to say.
I mean, we are a lazy bunch of people. I will say, not like this industry, like humanity.
yes, yeah.
Humanity is lazy.
And how did your name after the famous Jamaican artist started to
Oh,
get popular? What happened with your name?
well, nobody's ever really been good at pronouncing it anyway. Like I work with people every single day who still consistently say it wrong, and I'm like, I just kind of give up. But they are heavily influenced by Rihanna, and so I get that a lot more now than I get the other variations. Um, every now and again, I have some family members who throw an O in there, which I'm like, come on, man. Like what's like they're like responding to like an email and I'm like, it's right there. Um, but yeah, that definitely heavily influenced it. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Which is fine. Like it's a weird name for a white Minnesotan lady to have, so I get it. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't like fit.
yeah.
But that's all right.
Awesome.
It makes us stand out, like you said. Makes us memorable. um, so Jonny, before we jump in, we've got a bunch of questions that we want to ask and get to know you a little bit better. But first, can you tell us something kind of fun, interesting, unique about yourself that others might be super aware of? Maybe nobody knows it, and you're telling the world today.
Yeah. Well, I think one unique thing that not a lot of people have experienced is that I had been in a cult and I left. So it's kind of a unique experience.
I need all of the information right now.
Yes.
Okay.
What cult? What was the name of this cult?
It was, I mean, this could be, it's probably hours long backstory, but it
We
was
got time.
a tiny little compound in East Texas. I didn't realize it was a cult when I was joining it, but
Mhm.
yeah, we're fenced in, and you have your ministry placement, which is just your kind of free labor for
Yeah.
the ministry,
Mhm.
quote unquote. So yeah, so basically, yeah, just lived in East Texas for a year, and yeah, it was a different
Whoa.
experience.
For sure. Oh my gosh, I have so many questions and I just don't know if it's appropriate to ask any of them. If I'm being totally honest. Because in my head, I'm thinking cults and Texas, and I'm immediately going to and now my mind's going blank. But and Alan was you were shaking your head. I feel like you know what I'm talking about. Do you not?
I don't
They
know.
made a series about it with
Waco.
yeah, Waco.
Ah,
That's what my
yes.
mind is going to. Um,
Hmm.
similar, totally different, where you're like, that seems extreme. Like,
Yeah, we didn't have any guns, so
okay, yep,
yeah.
nice.
No, this was just it was much more efficient. They had, we were putting in whatever 40 hours a week working
Hmm.
for the I mean, my ministry placement was data entry, so apparently that's where the Lord wanted me to be. So
Nice. I like it.
Yep.
Um, what caused you to decide to one leave, but then like come to Minnesota? Or are you like from Minnesota?
Yeah, I'm from Minnesota. I had moved
Okay.
down there. I was thinking it was like a leadership training thing, and it turned out being something different.
Oh, yep.
Oh,
But you
Mhm.
never really realize that it is when you're there
Yeah.
until you leave. But I
Mhm.
came back for family stuff. So
That makes sense.
yeah.
hmm.
Wow. That is really unique. I love that.
That
Um,
is, yeah.
that's so cool.
So, Johnny,
Yeah.
transitioning from your youth, I suppose,
Yeah.
to present day, what do you do today with like film? Like, and how did you get into that? I suppose, like, how did you make that leap?
I had tons of different jobs, and I had jumped around from a bunch of different colleges. I think I went to like 7 colleges over there, maybe six
Wow.
years, 7 years, and finally finished at with like a degree in mass communications and broadcasting,
Mhm.
and that was kind of focused on like TV news or radio. Um, I started to kind of look into it a little bit, but all my friends who were working for news stations, they tell me what they did for work, and it just did not sound like something I was interested in. So
Hmm.
I, I worked for a security company and a moving company, and jumped around trying to get into some kind of like production company or rental house. Eventually got a job at Lights On, which is
Oh,
a old,
yeah,
rental house. They're closed now,
I remember that
but
one.
yeah. So then that's where they taught me what a stinger is, what a C stand is, what continuity is. So yeah, yep. Then I guess from there, then the recession happened. Then started working on a bunch of short films, and I was working kind of like Grip Electric, and but I probably put in, I don't know, 100+ days working for free that first year, and got on a bunch of sets and started meeting people and started getting on more and more sets, and then kind of worked my way through almost every department. Um, and then eventually jumped over to stills for a while, and then came back over to the video side, and then at some point just said, I'm only shooting now at this point. So
Hmm.
I've always been shooting my own stuff just for fun, but it's really been maybe 6 years or 7 years since I said, this is all that I'm doing. I'm not doing anything else.
Hmm. Um, question on that. So you mentioned that you jumped around or like really experienced different departments like throughout,
Yeah.
a couple years. Um, which like what all did you do outside of just like camera work specifically?
I did a lot of grip work, a lot of electric work. Whether was rigging or working on the pre-rigging for stuff, and then I did a fair amount of art department work, and like assist food stylists on projects, and I did a lot of work as a production assistant. It's really, if you're kind of thinking ahead and paying attention on set, as a PA, you just are, it's kind of inevitable that you're going to get a ton of work, and you're just going to keep getting drawn into more and more production assistant work. And so I did a lot of that, and it wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I loved the opportunity to watch other people work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where eventually I kind of jumped over to the still side to make a clean break, because I was having a hard time getting out of the PA world. So
Yeah. I feel like that's understandable. It's such a it's an easy thing to get into and if you're good at it to just be like the go-to person. So that makes sense.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, you could book, 20, 25 days a month, when, or at least when I was doing it, it was, and that doesn't give you really any time to pursue anything else. And
mhm.
Mm.
the more you're doing one thing, it's harder for people to think of you as something else.
Mm.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely. Um, so who inspires you the most when it comes to filmmaking? Whether it's like people that are maybe local or if it's, huge Hollywood features, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I love everything. Yeah. I have so many people who inspire me.
Mhm.
As my mentors growing up in the film industry here were people like Jeff Stonehouse and Greg Winter and Buck Holzheimer and just a lot of really fantastic cinematographers, and a lot of them are director DPs. And so
Mhm.
watching them work was, really instrumental in kind of the way I started to think about shooting stuff that wasn't documentary. But like on a bigger level, I'm really inspired by, maybe not bigger, but like when like bigger features, someone like Caleb Deschanel. Like I love the work he does, and it's really amazing to see someone who is been able to like stay with their family and
Mhm.
have a career, but also maintain like a healthy life as well, and
Mhm.
you maintain those relationships and stuff, because it's hard to do both.
Yeah, absolutely. That work-life balance, it's important even for those roles where it seems like, well, that's the dream and so that's fun. It's still important to like clarify that that is work. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I who is the last name you said? Caleb.
Caleb Deschanel, he he shot the Black Beauty way back in the day. It
Oh,
was kind
okay.
of one of his first big ones, but he's done about everything. He's a fantastic cinematographer. It's gorgeous, gorgeous work. He did the kind of live action animated Lion King, and just like even listening to his
Mm,
process for that, about how they created the moves that felt realistic in
Hmm.
this
mhm.
animated film. And so yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Huh. Interesting.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah. Tell us about your feature length work. Uh, how it came to be a film that you wanted to work on, and um, whether it be for I don't know what department you were in for each one. Sounds like you may have been involved with a few. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, that first year when I started doing, kind of getting into film, I had worked on a couple of micro budget features. Like one of them, I think we shot the entire project for like $5,000, and that
Wow.
was, that was cast, crew, locations, equipment. I mean, it's incredible.
What
So
year was
Wow.
that?
that was like 2009, 2010.
Okay, so just for
Uh,
inflation.
Mhm.
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was amazing to have. We'd rent out the gear on for a Friday, because you get your weekend rate. And so we'd put in between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we'd put in, 12 to 16-hour days every day. So you get, basically a full work week in 3 days. And it's, Little Caesars for, one or two meals a day. And yeah, but we made it happen. And it's still, some of my favorite memories of working on films. But I've done kind of a little of everything. I've done a lot of grip and electric on films, some assistant camera work, a lot of production assistant stuff.
Mhm.
So one of the memorable ones we had after I'd got laid off, there was this was back when Iowa had their big film incentive, which they were giving like somewhere close to like 50% of 50%
Wow.
rebate or cash back.
Nice.
Wow.
And so someone had ordered some gear that had custom gear that had to be delivered down there. So a friend and I drove down, my gaffer, who I usually work with, Douglas Gander. And so we drove down with the gear and dropped it off. And we just kind of like kept hanging out on set down in, it was like on the border of Iowa and Nebraska. So we just kind of kept hanging out. And, eventually, the gaffer was like, "Hey, why don't you guys go move these things? And then why don't you whatever?" And then at the end of the day, he's like, "Hey, do you guys want to come back tomorrow?" And so we ended up staying down there for a while. And then whenever they were short a person, we'd make a trip down, and it was something where we'd we had to kind of go back and forth where he would get paid for one day and I would get paid for the next day and he would get paid for, so it was a unique scenario, but it was an amazing opportunity where they saw that we were just hungry. We wanted to be there and wanted to work and learn. And they kind of found a way to make it work for us.
That's so awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool. And how impressionable too, to like have that type of like warm, like welcome and inclusion. When you're at that point in your career where you really do just want to learn and like be part of something and watch it. So that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a question. It's gone. It was going to be a good one. I don't remember. Shoot. I should write these things down.
So Mike,
we had,
go ahead.
We were, when we were down there, I didn't really know too much about a lot of the big power stuff, and they were doing like, they were tying into the power inside, big buildings to run stuff. So it's like you take everything off of the panel, and then you put on your rubber gloves and you stand on your wood box and you clamp onto the actual like metal bars coming in. So you bypass every safety thing. So, it's you touch the wrong thing and that's the end. So they're like, stand behind this guy with this 2x4. And if he gets shocked, he's going to be stuck to the panel. So you got to hit him to knock him off the panel, because you can't touch him, because you'll also conduct electricity. So you got to hit him. And so I'm standing behind him with the piece of wood lined up, and I think I made him so nervous. He's like, "Just go in the other room, man. I can't work if you're over my shoulder here like this."
The steel chair. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you ever have to hit him?
No.
Okay, good. Whew. Oh man, I would be like I would be standing there with the thing. I'd be like, "Please don't hurt yourself. Please don't make me do it."
Yeah, they're like, you basically have like 7 seconds until brain injury, and then not much long after that till the end. So,
oh my gosh,
yeah. So that was my first experience, like getting into like a bigger set where we had ran 4 out up to like up the side of like a 9-story building. So it was a interesting experience.
Wow.
Jeez. So that was, you said that's one of the most memorable. Was there another one where you were able to maybe like choose like, yes, I want to be a part of this project because of XYZ? Maybe it's like the story or the people that were working on it, and you were far along enough in your career that you were like, I would love to be a part of this and have like this specific role or something like that.
I'm still waiting for that like perfect opportunity, and maybe there is no perfect opportunity, but I don't know. I have a few things in the works right now that I'm really excited about, but it's, I don't know. Features are, it's very hard to get the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
especially right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had mentioned Iowa earlier, but you're still here in Minnesota. Minnesota's now, increasing what we're able to offer filmmakers and everything. But what do you love most about filming here? Like, what keeps you filming here specifically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's, because we have the winter here and it's, kind of miserable. And so it's easy to, second guess it and wonder why you're still here. But the thing I always keep coming back to is it's it's always the people. So the relationships are, I love the people I work with here, and I'm sure I would find people I love at other places too. But, you kind of become a family on set, and especially when you spend all that time together, and all those discussions, before the shoot and after the shoot. And so I just really love the people I get to spend the time with at work, and that's kind of what makes every job worth it, whether it's the film industry or anything else.
For sure, 100%.
Yeah, and we know you've done work outside of Minnesota, of course, as you mentioned, like Iowa. Other places at all, or?
Yeah, I travel a fair amount for work. I do. It's kind of wherever the job is, but I've done a fair amount in Southern California, whether it's LA or San Diego or Northern California and Portland, and a lot of East Coast stuff, a lot of uh, some stuff down in Atlanta, and then a lot of stuff in like a lot of stuff in DC area,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, so kind of bumped around a fair amount for projects where, especially with a lot of the corporate stuff, where they have the production company might be here, and the head and the agency is here, and the headquarters are here of the client, but
Mhm.
they need to capture something somewhere else. So
Uh-huh.
Right.
What?
So,
Oh,
oh,
go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to make a joke to that none of our listeners will get, but so would you say that you like traveling then?
yeah,
Okay, sorry.
yeah.
Continue, Alan.
How would you compare and contrast like working in Minnesota versus like other places where, at least in my general search lately, I've kind of seen more of a value placed on video in other places, perhaps. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know like as far as price wise, well, first off, like when it comes to the hours you work on set, like Minnesota is a pretty strict 10-hour whatever 10-hour workday for crew, and that's pretty rare in a lot of the other bigger hubs. A lot of them are all at 12 hours, is the starting rate or starting whatever time frame. So
Mhm.
feel really fortunate for that here. And then there's a lot of good people everywhere, but I would say like in general, there's so many really, because we had tons of movies here, and so there's a lot of people who've become really good at their jobs and have taught a lot of people. And a lot of our projects, we don't have as much money, so people they have to wear multiple hats sometimes, and they have to be able to do more with less. And so
Yeah.
it's really nice to
Mhm.
have that where people can, they're still getting paid well, but they can carry a lot more weight than a lot of the other places I've worked, where people they'll never they'll never cross these paths, and they have a lot of expectations about a lot of other support people
Mhm.
that they'll get for to help with their position. And I think people here, they just kind of they'll find a way to make it work. Um, Not that it's all like that, but I think there's a very good chance that like any technician you get here is going to be really good at their job and able to do multiple jobs.
Yeah, for sure. So with that, like thinking about that, I mean, so many people are, like you said, really good at what they do and are have the ability to do multiple things, and that should be really helpful on set, so that even if there's maybe a lag in one area, you know that there's people who can help pick it up or help that growth. But on the flip side, what would you say is like the biggest challenge that you've faced or expect to face when you start shooting?
Yeah. Well, it's always I mean, the time is always your worst enemy. It's like you can never, no matter, you can get everything else, but you'll never get more time.
Yeah.
And so, and time is, it takes a long time to do something that's good and meaningful. And so trying to find a way to, convince people as soon as possible how much time you think it will take to do things, and trying to ask
Mhm.
for more time for things, and building in as many backups that will help save you time and all that stuff. Like the more you can do that, it will
Mhm.
definitely help. But I think that's always the biggest challenge, where, I mean, they can always throw more money at the project, but it just doesn't equate the same way as like having a second day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, and this is going to be one of our tangents. I told you tangents would happen. So Alan and I were discussing recently. I don't know if you've watched it yet or watched the first season at all, but The Witcher, on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And we were discussing how I am a psychopath and I'm obsessed with it. And so I watched it in less than 2 days. And I was like, I want at least 20 more episodes. Like, it's really upsetting to me that it's so short. It's only 8 episodes long. But thinking about it, because they have a huge budget, it's great, whatever, and it's so well done. But that's the key, is it takes so long to make it as good as it is, that I mean, if we want a 20 episode season, it's going to take a couple more years to get that, which I'm also not patient enough for. So I mean, it's good to keep that in mind too, not only for really for like any range of a project. Even if you're working with Netflix and have a huge budget, that's still always going to be a big constraint.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You know that I was watched the first season, then but I was kind of in and out a little bit, and so I rewatched it right before the new one came out, and it was like episode 2 or something when I was looking something up online, and I realized that The Witcher was Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I just watched this entire thing, and I had no idea this was Superman.
He's so good, right? Like he should just
Yes.
be like gray, silver haired, and long hair all the time.
The voice too,
Yeah.
the voice work.
Yeah, he
That's
does
what it
such a
was,
good
yeah.
job.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
voice in their hair. Yeah.
It's crazy. Mm-hmm.
I had the same thing with Vesemir, and I was like, until he started talking at more lengths in the second season, I was like, oh, he's that guy from Killing Eve, and I was just like,
Yeah.
what? How did I? It's the hair, it's everything. It's just like all the makeup. It's just they did a great job of making these characters look like the authentic characters from like the games and the books, of course. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So good though. Have you watched season 2 yet?
I did. Yep. Yeah, we planned a watch party, and my sister-in-law came over, and we binged it. Yeah.
So easy to do, right?
Mhm.
Excellent. Yeah. Sorry, like I said, I'm a psychopath, so we could just talk about that for the next hour.
yes, we can.
But I digress. We have more important questions to ask.
No, we don't. But no, I'm just kidding. Nothing's as important as The Witcher presently. Well, since we're on the okay. Do you guys want to just take a tangent here and go into The Witcher a bit?
I mean, I'm good on it, but if you guys want to talk more about it, I'm not going to turn you down.
Okay. Well, first off,
So I'll leave that up to both of you.
It sounds like you want to take a tangent.
I do. I'm going to take it there. This is staying in.
I love it.
Because
The best.
spoiler alert. So just, up ahead if you don't like that. They killed Roach. I mean, isn't Roach like a pivotal part later on? Unless they do some horse magic or something.
I mean,
I was reading up. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's entirely possible. Like, think of all the magic that's happened in this series. Bringing back a horse is going to be like nothing. They're going to be like, oh, here, let's plant this flower, and then boom, Roach is back. Like, it'll be fine.
Well, I was reading something about it, and it said it sounds like that he has gone through many horses, and he just keeps naming them the same thing. So it's like we fell in love with that who we thought was Roach, but apparently he might have had a dozen roaches before.
Interesting.
That makes more sense, especially after reading up on like season 1 and why it was so confusing and where the timeline actually is for each character. And it's like, oh, well, he's like 700 years old or whatever the hell. And
that does make sense. Yeah. Unless it's a magic horse. Sorry,
a unicorn. No.
But yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Still.
So quick question. So this is something I've been wondering a lot about with the series. I mean, fantasy stuff has been becoming like, I think it's always been, people have always loved it, but it's so hard to actually get good stuff. But lately, like every streaming service has like a really good fantasy series. And I'm wondering if is it because of Game of Thrones, or is it earlier than that? Is it because of like the Lord of the Rings that all this stuff is not possible? And also I'm just like so thankful for these big streaming services that have allowed so many new things to, kind of be made that probably never would have been made before.
Yeah, 100% agree. I would venture to say that Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all of that really started it, because without that, I don't know that Game of Thrones gets picked up the way that it does. And then the fact that that was picked up and done so well by that
Yeah.
team.
And then
I'm
The
sure
Hobbit.
that just,
Yeah.
that just like catapulted
There are
everything.
those, and then it's also books. It's franchisable IP. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
things that are already proven, and that's really what studios are buying into, are things that are already pre-sold, basically
Yeah.
built-in audiences. So unless it's that, I don't see an original version of a fantasy
Yeah.
thing out there, at least not to
Well,
my recollection.
is the Wheel of Time, do you think that's original?
No, it's I haven't watched this yet, but I only know this because my boyfriend's actually talked about the books. But like
Okay.
he said that back in the day he read the books and they were incredible, and so he was nervous
Yeah.
about the show. But it sounds like the show was also excellent. Um, Only reason
Hmm.
that I know that. Otherwise, I would have
Yeah.
assumed it was totally original.
Yeah.
Wheel of
But
Time, yeah.
yeah, it looks really
Yeah.
good. Have you seen that?
I did. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Is it nice?
Okay.
Yep, I liked
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
I'm
But you
excited
look
about
at
it.
all those books, and a lot of them are kind of older. Like
Yeah.
they're like that was from like with the early 90s or something.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what kind of built-in audience is there versus, starting with a new audience? I don't know.
Well, if it's
Right.
published and you know how many copies were sold, I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of the indicator right there. They're based on data. So it's, if enough people know about it, then yeah, we'll get more people excited about it, and then they'll buy the
Mhm.
books and yada yada
Yeah.
yada.
Yeah. Or I mean, even, it resembles like a Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit kind of feel. And if they can create it in that way, like in that light, then I'm sure they know like people are jonesing for something like that after Game of
Mhm.
Thrones was over.
Yeah.
And the next Game of Thrones, the dragon one, isn't out yet. Although I've heard that that's going to be dark, so I'm real excited. But so people are jonesing for like a really well done thing. So I'm sure that they know like, hey, this is kind of similar, but different enough that like we'll be able to get people hooked and then keep them for however long we can make this. So
Right. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, I'm sorry, this is the producer in me that, goes business side. It's like, it's the risk they take on. Like, if
Mhm.
this isn't good, you have just a big junk pile in front of you, wasting money,
Yeah.
So they need something that has a fan base, basically.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
part of that's
But
probably
they-
also like they got Rosamund Pikes and whoever. So it's like, okay, well, we know that she's good, and people are gonna like. There's certain like casts, like certain oh my god, the word is, it's been such a long day. Actors, whatever.
Names.
Where names, yeah. If you know that you get like person X or Y or Z or whatever, like there's gonna be people who are like, I don't even understand what this is about. I've never heard of it. I don't get it. Whatever. I'm gonna check it out anyway. Because of that, because of the names that you have. So I mean, that might also be a little bit of it.
Yeah, that factors into it. But the more risk that's on the side of, yeah, you're making money, a lot of people want to see this. That just, yeah, that's another, you're right. That is another part of it. Getting a name,
Mm-hmm.
getting Stephen King book XYZ, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's just going to sell because people know that name or that book or whatever. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also playing from a little unfair advantage where those places are, they want to break even or they want to make money, but they, like, Amazon doesn't need, to break even. Like they can,
Right.
they have a huge, they have so much money for coming in from so many things that like they can take big risks. And same for like Netflix,
True.
like they're spending tons of money on some of these things because they want to get the credit for that whatever Oscar nomination for whatever thing, and they're mailing DVDs out at the Oscar season and all this stuff. It's like they don't need to do all that stuff, but they want the prestige that comes with it. So
yeah.
So
Yeah.
whereas like a traditional studio, they're kind of stuck with
But I think
what
that
they have.
includes like the big budget talk. Like if you get like hundreds of millions of dollars for a production, you better have something to back that up with. Like, oh, this is a series that people will buy into, or this is a name people will buy into. And that just helps levy your production or film, that, will get the green light, basically. So
Yeah.
So what would you guys say is like the current, like some, not like The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, those are done, but like current best fantasy show out there?
did we not just say The Witcher? I mean, is this
I mean, that's my vote, but I also haven't seen Wheel of Time, and I'm again self-proclaimed psychopath. So I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't want to assume.
Well, is Game of Thrones still current? Because if it is, I would say for sure Game of Thrones. But if it's between the others, I don't know. I mean, like the season 2 of Witcher was really good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you like, and I'm gonna ask you this, Jonny, because Alan and I disagree. Did you like season 1 or season 2 better?
Season 2 for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah. Well, season 1, it was a little stronger in that last episode, or maybe episode and a half, but
Mhm.
there was so much exposition that there were like moments of, that were really enjoyable, but it was hard to track with a lot of it.
Mhm.
And so I think that, and they had so much story to try to tell to kind of set up where we're at now. So I think that they were just kind of stuck spending a lot of time doing that. Also, there was definitely the first season of any show is never, sometimes the story is great, but it never looks as great. But like season 2 it was just beautiful. Like there were all the decisions they made with the look of it, and wardrobe and casting, and they just,
art direction?
yeah, exactly. So
Mhm.
it definitely felt more, I don't know, more full and thought out, and yeah.
Mhm.
And we got
I
to
like them
see the
both,
Wild
but
Hunt.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
Okay.
in my estimation, the Wild Hunt is like similar to like the White Walkers of Game of Thrones in that sense. In my opinion, that could be kind of the similar, like, giant threat later. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, now I'm just gonna go and like rewatch both seasons tonight.
yeah.
And I say tonight because like I'm not gonna stop. Like who needs
Yeah.
sleep? I got The Witcher to rewatch. Anyway.
Yeah. I also felt like the Witcher's character was a little more like you heard him talking more, and you kind of started to
Mhm.
he started to feel a little more full. He like
Yeah.
It wasn't for the first season, a lot of it he was like kind of just this angry guy who you're never quite sure what's going on.
Yeah.
And so he still kept some of that, but there was a lot more, I don't know, humanity to him in the second
Mhm.
season.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely was. I kind of like the mysterious, grumpy Henry Cavill, but I also agree with what you're saying. He definitely seemed more like an actual, like full, like complete character, like person
Yeah.
or which or whatever. This season.
Yeah. And there was more at stake for him this season, it seemed. So
Oh, 100%. Just wait until next season
yeah.
in 2 years.
There's a really beautiful Netflix animated movie. I don't know if you saw that.
Not yet, but
Okay.
when you're like done with the season or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
it's like, here, watch these. And I was just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this exists. I got very excited.
Yeah, and it's done by the same team that did the what is it, the Castlevania series.
Ooh, okay.
So it's the same artworks. It's really, really beautiful.
Nice. I could see that being perfect too. Yeah, I'll have
Yeah.
to check that out.
Well, okay, I'm done tangenting. So back to our regularly scheduled
Yeah, feel free to
questioning.
chop that up however you want.
So, Johnny,
Yeah.
you okay, Rahana?
I'm so good. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna mute myself quick.
What do you look forward to the most when starting a new project?
I think for me it's a few things. It's about the relationship. So I want to work with people that I enjoy being around. And then usually it's about the story. If it is a narrative project, really trying to find stories that I want to tell that I could, maybe I don't necessarily see myself in a character, but like you know, as a whole, like I feel like the story is worth telling and you can kind of feel the emotion of the people in the story.
Mhm.
So those are the two big ones. And then, for a lot of the work I do, I do a lot of commercial work. And so for that, it's always the money as well. So you
Yeah.
have all those things plus the money, whereas the narrative stuff is pretty much always a labor of love. So, yeah, I also love when I get really excited when I get to try out something different. I love being challenged on projects and kind of getting to use that, different part of your brain and try to find a way to solve an issue that you've never, thought through before. So
Mhm.
whether it's like we need the camera to spin through this rig this way, or we need to shoot this day for night, or this has to happen, all this stuff has to happen in these like 20 minutes at magic hour, or whatever it is. So I love
Mhm.
the creative problem solving part. I think that's probably why I'm in this industry, is because I've jumped around to a bunch of different things, but that part of it keeps, bringing me back, and I'm excited for every day I'm on set. So,
Mhm. Absolutely. Speaking of camera, tell us what your dream camera to work with is and how come?
I don't really necessarily have a dream camera. It's more, I don't put too much emphasis on the camera. It's more about
Mhm.
the location and the production design and the lighting for me. So, I mean, I think that there's, there's so many fantastic cameras out there that do so many amazing things that it doesn't really matter too much which one we're on for me. So I kind of pick the camera based on what's going to be ideal for the project. So a lot of times I want something that's going to be lightweight for, kind of like the run and gun docu style stuff. If I'm going to be handheld with it all day, like
Mhm.
I want to have built-in neutral density for making fast adjustments. And so there's a bunch of factors like that weigh into everything. So I guess it's because there's some amazing cameras that, they're really good for a feature, but if you're on a project where it's just you and a gaffer or you and a sound person, that camera sucks because you don't have the support you need and the
Mhm.
file sizes are massive and you're not able to keep up with the data,
Mhm.
and it doesn't have a lot of the functions that you want that are in like a cheaper camera. So it's really just based on, dependent on the project.
That's a good
So
point.
I don't
Well,
know if that helped that was the right answer.
it didn't, no.
Okay.
There is no wrong answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you kind of brushed up on a few features here. Like, what are your top key features in a camera that you like? You kind of talked about neutral density, um, lightweight. I guess what are maybe three most important things to you?
Yeah. What's the thing I look for the most in every camera is like how it handles the skin tone. So there's a lot of cameras that, and I don't even know exactly what the science is behind it or why it is, but there's some cameras where people's skin just looks beautiful, and some cameras where uh it's a real struggle to, make someone's skin look beautiful. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing I look at in most projects
Hmm.
is how it's going to work for that. Um, and then beyond that, I mean, the people don't talk about file sizes that much, but I think they're a really important thing because I mean, the crews are getting smaller and we're being asked for more and more stuff all the time. And like managing the media is, a huge portion of the day, especially on smaller projects. So if you and then like a lot of travel stuff I'm on, like, I mean, I've had so many jobs where you're up, half the night dumping media
Mm.
and you're not getting enough rest for the day before the next day, and you repeat the process. And so, having something that's, takes all that stuff into account is I guess is what I'd say I'd look for in a camera.
Mhm.
Does that answer the question? Kind of.
I
Kind
think
of,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
As a
definitely like speed, like size of files, like the back end of it. Um,
Yeah.
just
yeah,
lightweight and portability,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
then neutral densities, kind of those things.
Yeah. But it's like depending on what you're doing. Like I just did a music video with a friend recently where it's like I had a little Ronin RS2 gimbal, and I had the Sony A7S III, and super small, lightweight. We were able to go all over town and just grab a bunch of scenes, and with the weight of it, I was able to work at a really fast speed and to create some really dynamic moves. And walking upstairs repeatedly for takes, and a lot of things that there's just no way you would be able to do that realistically. And I mean, we shot a 3-minute music video in like 3 hours or 4 hours. So you
nice.
know previously with other cameras, that would have been something that would have just not been possible.
Mhm.
um and but this has amazing autofocus, amazing tracking functions, and it's a tiny little camera that's you can almost put in your pocket. And because it's small, people aren't trying to stop you, and they aren't wondering what you're doing, versus like once you have bigger rigs and bigger crews and stuff, there's less stuff that you can kind of, less shots that you can steal for projects like that. So
How did that camera deal with the RS2 in terms of like IBIS, and like do you have to like lock that out, or does it work just
uh
fine?
yeah, it seemed to work fine. I don't remember what I did with it. I don't think I used the ibis at all.
Okay,
I think it was just bait. Yeah, the
standard.
Ronin RS2 is pretty incredible.
That's what I figured, because yeah, just checking.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Stabilization for cameras, so basically not super shaky, but
Yeah.
and the micro jitters that IBIS addresses, but on an RS2
Yeah.
it should stabilize a shot, so when you're moving it looks like smooth. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
I was listening to some podcast the other day, and who is it? I can't think of the famous Australian cinematographer who shot Dune. Um, Greg. I can't think of his name. Anyways,
Or enough.
he. What was that?
That I was making up a name, so no,
Gotcha.
don't listen to me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it
look
was
it up.
his work is beautiful. He shot Rogue One.
Oh,
Shot yeah, just so many fantastic things. Anyways, his next project he was talking about, he's shooting everything on the Sony FX3, the tiny little,
really?
yeah. It's like they're doing the whole feature film on that. And this is the guy who shot, I mean, like you look at the scale of a movie like Dune. He shot the new Batman movie, um, with the yeah. So
Really?
and he's shooting on this tiny little camera. So there's so much amazing technology that's out right now, and yeah,
Greg Fraser?
yes, that's it.
There we go. Script.
Nice, good memory.
I'm helpful.
So
Thanks,
Sony
Google.
must be doing something here. This feels like a ploy, you know what I mean? It's like, yes, just shoot it on this camera, no internal NDs, nothing. It's just like, just so you can prove you can do it. Is that what we're doing here? We're selling some cameras. I think that's what we're doing. But anyways, go ahead.
You know what? As long as it's good, go
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Johnny, you kind of touched on us like briefly really earlier. Said you had a lot of things sort of in the works, but what's like really next for you that's like official or you're able to maybe divulge?
Um, well, I have a bunch of commercial projects that are coming up. So I have 3 days with Target this week.
Ooh,
There's some stuff come up with Best Buy after that, and then maybe a Takatu. A few of the projects I'm not sure if they'll happen. A few of them are some bigger food companies, and some bigger paint companies, and what else? Some bigger athletic companies. So those ones I'm still in the bidding process. So uh, we'll see what happens with that. But
Oh
yeah,
joy.
that sounds fun.
hmm
Where can people find your work or contact you if they want to?
I think. Well, I mean, I guess my website is it has a fair amount of my work there, or Vimeo. I have a fair amount. Um, I'm trying to get better at Instagram. just like I don't know why it's so hard to post on there. Just feels like I don't know, like disingenuous or something. So yeah, it feels like I don't know. It's hard when, and I'm sure that everyone has the same struggle, but when your name is also your business, then it's like it's separating personal from professional, and where do you draw the line? And
Right.
you know, yeah. So
it's tough.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, JonnyStuckmayer.com is my site that has, you know, some of my reels, and you know, it's pretty old though. Actually, now that I think of it, I probably haven't updated my website in quite a while, so maybe it's not the best spot to go.
How about if somebody wanted to contact you? They're like, man, I need Jonny on this project stat.
Yeah, I think my email's on the website. That's probably the easiest place. Yeah, emails or phone calls are usually the best.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Jonny, this is the big one,
Mm-hmm.
the really important, super deep question. But what do you want people to remember most about you? Whether it's people who maybe watch your work, who have worked with you, anybody.
I think that's a tough one. I think I think like I'm probably I really pride myself in everything that I do, and I try to like engage as much as possible with each project and put everything I have into it. And like when I'm in a project, that's all that I'm focused on, maybe to the detriment of, you know, other things in life. But I think, you know, I think I'd be most proud if people just feel like when they watch a project, they feel like that I cared about it, what I was doing. So yeah.
Good.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And every project, fight as hard as you can to make sure everyone gets paid, they get paid well, and you know, everything is safe, and no bullies on set, no egos, trying to keep everything, you know, trying to make it an enjoyable workspace where everyone wants to be and where they enjoy coming back the next day. So yeah, at the end of that, if you can do that, then the job's a success. Because really, like, I mean, you know, it's only a few projects a year that you look back at that you're like, this is an amazing thing I want to show. But you know, every job, you just want people to really be happy about their experience there. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Jonny, thank you so much for joining us and chatting with us, taking the time. It's been really fun to get to know you better, and just have you on. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time on Film in Minnesota.